you.
Oh, interesting. I think watching it, we probably found our groove even a little bit more, I thought. I think the turns from kind of gore to humor to darkness got even a little more elegant. So that was cool. I've never been involved in a hit show like this before. This whole thing has been this kind of wonderful roller coaster. Coming in to a show that we knew had that many eyes on it was definitely a different experience from season one, because season one you really feel like you're kind of making something together that's new and you don't know exactly what it is, and it feels kind of more childlike or something. And then season two, it was a little more scary. We weren't sure if we're going to be able to do it again, or there's going to be a sophomore slump, or and I had to go completely off social media because I was getting in my head that, the scene that I'm about to do might be watched by, I mean, what were the numbers for season one? It was just insane. I just couldn't, I had to forget what I was doing and go back into the bubble of actually making the show. So, that was interesting. This whole thing has been all these new experiences.
And where's Dr. McKay for you in season two versus season one? Where's her headspace?
It was interesting because I think for most of the characters, season two begins in the aftermath of the mass casualty. And so the toll that takes on people. And for McKay, I would say uniquely, she begins with her feet more on the ground in season two than they were in season one. So, her life has settled. It took her a long time to kind of get her feet on the ground before medical school. So she's the person with more twists and turns in her life. So she might have been slightly more equipped to deal with the mass casualty than other doctors. She understands that you need a certain level of self-care. There's some wisdom that comes from having struggled, and I think she has some of that. So, yeah, I think season two is much more about, positive things, like what I want my life to look like, outside of medicine, and what's missing, and what have I been ignoring for a long time. You can wake up as a middle-aged woman and be like, wait a minute. I've been focusing on work and taking care of other people. What do I want?
Everyone's having a particularly bad day in season two, but she gets a very interesting patient in the cancer patient that's dying.
Yeah.
And, whereas a lot of people sort of have patients that come and go, this is sort of a continuing case that comes with her throughout the course of the day. How do you think she's handling it?
Yeah, it was really intense to shoot, and it lasted a long time. I mean, we were shooting that sequence for what felt like months. And I think really intentionally she's meant to reflect McKay. So it's a woman my age, it's a woman with a son, it's a woman with a loving family, which McKay does not have. And it's a reminder that life can be very unfair and it can end. And it could happen to me. Um, and it can happen to all of us. It was sort of this like existential journey, kind of, and a really beautiful performance. I that was that it was a lot to walk through, and I felt like I was walking through it actually.
Your performance was so great too, but it really hit for me after she died because you don't even get that moment and then you get the blanket. And then it's sort
Yeah.
of like, oh my God. I felt like that's when it sort of hit.
Life works like that. There's it often doesn't end in this kind of, beautiful, tearful cohesion goodbye, and you're like left with a remnant. Um, or you find out somebody died from a phone call and that's it, right? Like it felt very real to me actually. Um, and those little details that can be really moving and remind you of, your parent or something. And I thought that was really well written. I liked that they did it that way. And a blanket is so personal too. Like
Mhm.
it.
She has like great, I mean, not to quote your lines back to you, but I just pulled it up. She has this great moment with this speech with Langdon, that sort of interchange where it's like, you get shut down with your feelings. I'm scared I've shut them down for so long. I don't know how to do it and turn them on again. What was that like? Talk about that scene and filming that scene with Langdon, because it's
Yeah,
rare to
I
see
mean,
her open herself up like that.
I think that that's a real thing with doctors. We have a few med techs on the actual show that talk about that. That they'll have these sort of difficult experiences at the hospital and then get home and like a commercial makes them cry, that it seems very kind of disconnected in order to protect yourself. I think that's sort of how I work also. So it was like, yeah, it was beautiful. I think that they often write to people, write to our actual, you know, to the actor that's in front of them. And I slash McKay can sort of go into like management mode, and then you wonder how much of your life is missing. It's also a caretaking thing, I think. Like if you're used to if it's the other person that needs care, you can get really, really used to that. And then you get disconnected to how you feel because you come second.
Because McKay, as tough as she can be and as, competent she can be, she does have this sort of like, but she comes back with humor because again, when like Langdon's like, do you need a hug? Oh God, no. Like,
I know.
but that does feel like you. To your point, it feels like they're writing to you at this point.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, I always like the writing. I mean, that's how I can tell. I was like, oh, this moment feels true. It doesn't feel like a leap. So yeah, I think they are. I think they're doing that for all of us, actually.
That's a
But
joy of a
yeah,
show as it gets richer and deeper as you get into the second and third season of a
show.
show.
The joy of a show. And everybody's around a lot. Like it's a pretty joyful set in a way that not every television show is. So it definitely feels like this kind of cohesive group that there's new people coming in and out and stuff, but there's a lot of energy put into making the actual experience of the show kind of easeful and joyful and kind of flow well. And yeah, you just get to know the writers, and you get to know you know producers. And yeah, I think that I think it helps them too when they have like a real sense of you.
You mentioned at the top that you left social. Have you come back to social? Are you aware of what's the social response of the season has been?
Mostly, do you know what I'm really guilty of is posting and ghosting. So I want to promote the show, and then all of these like lovely articles that have come out have felt really kind of beautiful, and but I often don't scroll. I often don't scroll. Yeah, what's the response been?
No, it's been great.
They have been good for my character.
Yes, they've been great for your
Okay.
character. I promise you. I just checked. I read
Okay.
everyone's Team
Nobody's
McKay.
bitching.
Team McKay.
Okay,
But
good.
because a lot of this season has been about Robbie's spiral,
Yeah.
but you're the one of the few people who stands up to him.
Yep.
What is it about McKay that is it her history with him that allows her gives her the courage to stand up to him?
I'm a tool of intuition in the show. So I'm somebody who, through struggle, has learned and life experience has learned things and can kind of see things that maybe other younger doctors have missed. And I think that's why. It's because I see true. I can tell what's going on. Yeah, there's a strength, and I think there's like a truth seeking and a wisdom to the character. It's like I can see what you're doing, and just make sure that you're aware of it. There's like the step of self-awareness is so powerful.
A lot of it has to do with the casting on the show, that a lot of the junior doctors happen to be women of color, so that it feels like he's been going after brown women particularly, and that's been a lot of the conversation that's been happening. But there's an incident where he goes after Javati, and that it's going to be in next week's episode because he thinks she's making one of her TikTok videos. And then
Yeah.
you come back to him and say, once more, I feel compelled to offer some unasked and probably unwanted advice. And I love that you stand up for her and that you stand up to him. And that's just sort of a great
Yeah.
moment because I think it
Yeah.
addresses all of that's sort of been going on because like,
Awesome.
go ahead.
Well, Noah wrote that.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he wrote that episode and wrote that line. Yeah.
Love to hear that.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I do not know, but I know that there was a lot of interest in presenting the other side of social media, not only vilifying it, but seeing that it's a younger generation's tool for self-expression also. I tend to vilify it in my own mind. So it's an interesting take. I thought it was really very cool of them. So I know that was a pitch over the season. for sure. And I also think that, you know, this is my sense. I really should not speak for Noah, but I think it's cool that he is so valuable. That man is not a hero. He has a lot of flaws and makes mistakes. Yet he is the kind of leader who's leading us through. But he's a real three-dimensional person who fucks up
He's having a bad day.
a really bad day. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to go there too.
So, what's your take? Do you think he goes on the sabbatical? Do you think he comes back?
Well, it's not fair because I know. I like the motorcycle, the whole thing of like going into the bed. It's such a good image. I can remember times in my life where I was like, I just want to like flee. I want to go away. Then the trouble is you can't ever achieve that because wherever you go, your mind is there. You know, you like figure that out probably in your 30s or something. But just this image of like wide open space and then you're still there with everything you haven't confronted. It's just interesting. Very human.
What do you want to see for Dr. McKay next? What do you want for her?
You know, I thought that she was taking steps that were brave for her social life, and I'd like to see a little bit more of that, of like internal bravery and steps towards putting herself first. You know, figuring out what she wants and what she wants her life to look like when she dies. You know, I think that that can get ignored in the face of work. And it's a very common theme that you hear from actual doctors is that you can blink and be 50.
And by bravery, do you mean dating? Do you mean exploring more of her personal life for herself?
I did, yeah. There's some flirting. There's a season. You know, I think that I could. I'm interested in opening up more channels of friendship. I don't know if McKay has that much of a social life, or she. I think there's probably a real thread of very vulnerable fear of rejection in terms of like personal interaction. So I'd like to see kind of that filled out a little bit. I think there's something rich to be explored between her and uh, Dr. Langdon, who's newly in recovery. I think that's something that I'd like to see.
Friendship or romantic?
Oh, friendship.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. He's a baby. He's a baby. Not my type. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Who else do you think among the pit staff that she's closest with or could explore a friendship with? Or even in like a mentorship with?
I think in a way, as self-protection, she very much has, you know, tunnel vision when she's there. You know, there's a, a budding friendship between her and Mohan, for sure. And I think that I think there's connection with Langdon. I think she is very impressed by charge nurse Dana, you know, as a woman who really keeps the entire thing going. And it's also can be quite vulnerable. So I think there's something there too. Javadi, who is as opposite to McKay as you can get, you know, which hasn't been a really interesting pairing, you know. And it's been interesting to see the difficulties of somebody who I feel like has had it easy. You know, on first glance, you're like, oh, well, her mother works at the hospital. She's been coddled. She tested so well, which ultimately is a gift, right? It's like being born tall to be born that smart. People don't look at it that way, but it's true. And I think on first glance, you could be like, well, my life is so separate from that, and you had it so easy. But getting to know her, you see all the difficulties that can bring, which is a cool dichotomy. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Oh, and I think she really enjoys Santos. I think Santos has a spunk that she can relate to.
I interviewed Sarah Wiley just because I love the story of her being on the show in that case of
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but I love your sort of interaction with Santos. Like you're good with the weird ones.
Yeah, 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 yeah. She's good with the words. I loved filming that scene. I also thought that Sarah was perfect for it. We see her every once in a while, but she's always running errands. So it was long times where I realized that she doesn't always wear yoga pants.
What are some of your favorite cases? Like what stands out for you when you look back over the two seasons?
Well, I'll tell you, Roxy was not one of them. Oh, I thought the tumor was really heartbreaking, and the performance by Derek Cecil was beautiful. I thought that was excellent. That's the beginning of season two, my first
Mhm.
case. I also think that's a real life story that happened to somebody where I mean, I'm sure it's happened to thousands of people, but I think that's from a story from one of the writers where a tumor made a partner of theirs act very weird. But I thought that was really heartbreaking. I often think we have the easiest job because we come in and we help, but it's these patients that are really like going through the worst moment of their lives, in order to like represent. I mean, it will happen to all of us eventually, but and then we're there to bear witness.
No matter what's happening in their personal lives, like, depositions, meltdowns, all of that, they still have so much compassion for their patients. They still have to
Yeah,
keep it at the door,
yeah,
with whatever's
yeah.
happening. And that's so hard. Like, how do you compartmentalize that?
Talking to real doctors, they do, because you're face to face with somebody who's really going through trauma, and in a way, I think it like can drown out noise. One of the med techs, Dr. Jacob Lentz, has become a real friend of mine, and he talks about the emergency room is interesting because it's the great equalizer. At that point, it doesn't matter how much money you make or like who you are outside of it. Everybody is at a point of crisis in their life that all brought them to the same place, and that crisis is like bare bones humanity. Yeah, it's just never about you. And it's strong enough that you can get out of your head. You can get out of self-referential thought and make it about them. I am not a doctor, so this is my imagination.
Right. But you play one on
That's what I
TV.
imagine, but I play one on television, like The Simpsons. Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the cool things about this job has been I've gotten to know a bunch of doctors.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a hard job. They're up against a lot.
Is there something you've learned about yourself as a person, as a performer?
The less that I worry about myself, the better I am. Because in the end, I think everybody, including Noah, all of us are all cogs in this one wheel. And when you make it about, whatever we're doing, it's just much more fun and freeing. So the experience of like doing something that I know a lot of people are going to watch was challenging. The more I was like, oh, this is like a group effort, actually. And I don't even know who gets Final Cut, but even if you get Final Cut, it's all of the pieces that made it. And it was like really like taking that in and thinking about it was kind of number one. I think it's true, actually. Um, and it made it way more fun. So I guess I learned the, the trick to happiness and doing good work is less self-referential thought and maybe less social media.
It's hard out there for sure.
It's hard in here.
I know.
My friend is actually visiting me. I'm in Ireland right now from London. She was like, "What is happening in your life?" My life looks like so strange and on social media, but actually the day to day hasn't changed that much
I mean, do you get
forward.
noticed? Do you get stopped on the street?
I do actually. I do, but also not enough to where it's ever annoying. Like it's just been delightful.
Mhm.
It's like every once in a while, the experience of it actually is every once in a while you're at a place and then somebody comes up and is like, "I like you," and you're like, "Yeah,
Take it.
so much. I like you too." You know what I mean? It's been great.
Last question. So for season three, it feels like the pit always comes back on some holiday or some moment. Is there some vision or wish you would have for season three of the pit?
I mean, I always wanted them to do, I don't think they will though, because it's too like hokey, but I always wanted them to do Halloween, just because I personally love genre, but also like the costumes and everything. I think Lynn Powell, our costume designer, would hate us, but I think there would be a lot there and kind of fun. I don't think they'll do it, but I would go Halloween. They'll put a Chucky in there. That'd be great. Mm.
Amazing. All right. Anything I didn't ask that you would want to bring up?
I've been watching videos of Noah testifying to like a lot, I think the Los Angeles Council to
Hmm.
get filming of what it is to keep work in Los Angeles. And that's been it's just I'm an Angelino. I was actually born in Woodstock, but raised in Los Angeles, and that's been a really cool thing to be a part of. That we the Pit has showed that you can make television um, cheaply in Los Angeles, where the infrastructure is there, and then all of the money goes to, or so much of the money goes to labor and to keeping the industry, you know, made by the people who've been making it for generations. Yeah, that's been really important to me. So it's been really cool.
I
I
think
don't
that's
want Los Angeles to become like Detroit, you know?
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think that's been a huge, powerful message, and I think in no small part, a huge credit to the success of the show for sure.
Yeah, yeah, you can make you can do it. You can make good storytelling for a reasonable price. And then give back to the community, you know, employ people.
The other thing that got a lot of attention, obviously, this season was the episode about the ice coming in. What was it like for you to film that or be a part of that episode?
It was very, very intense. Yeah. I mean, it was like 200 people who were kind of holding their breath. Very uncomfortable for the people playing the ice agents also. You felt it. I mean, that kind of energy is exhausting and exhilarating at the same time.
I think one of the things the show does really well is like figure out a way to weave headlines into the show and make them and put a human face on it.
That's sort of one of the main concepts of the show actually is to try to reflect real hospitals. You know, what are the problems in American emergency rooms right now? Right, and we treat our audience like we're like they're smart, which I also think one of the reasons the show is successful. Like there's no reason that medicine needs to be as accurate as it is. I mean, how many people watching have been to medical school? But it is, I mean, there's so much effort put in to make sure that we're like pronouncing it correctly and actually using the correct vial, and the ultrasound is held correctly and it corresponds to the screen and all of I mean, there's so much effort into like this is what it actually would be like 0.1% of the people watching it are going to notice.
Right.
But I think there's power to it, and it enables them to tell stories like ice coming in, right? Because I think audiences have grown to trust that we're going to do it in a kind of reasonable and realistic way.